Our topic for today is I want to formalize my intake process, but I need help. So, because in my private practice collective, we're not just about, being a solopreneur and hitting those six figures. We really want you to think outside of the box and really think outside of how can you really build something that is sustainable for you and your lifestyle. I always want to be talking about how can you really continue to grow. And one way that you can continue to grow is by having a solid, intake and referral process for your practice. So the first thing that I want you to do is, if you don't already have it written down somewhere, I want you to write it down. I want you to write down from, sort of the initial phone call through the first intake. What happens? Who's going to answer that call? How are those calls fielded? What kind of information do you need on that call? Where do you or somebody else put that information? Whether you do paper charts still, not that I hope you don't, because I know some people do and I don't want to shame anybody, but if you're thinking about electronic health record, please move over there. There's just so many benefits. Then, is there any paperwork that they get in the interim? How do they get that paperwork? Do they get a reminder before their appointment? And then what happens on the day of somebody's intake? So I want you to really formalize this process, because it'll do two things. One, it will help for you to clarify what your process is and if there's any holes in those processes. And then the other thing that it will do is it will allow you then to hire somebody if you don't already have somebody answering your phones. Again, if you're thinking big, you're thinking outside of the box, and you don't want to be the one answering your phones all the time, you're going to need to have a formal process for your phone person, whether you have a virtual assistant or you have an in-office person. You really want to be able to let somebody know exactly what they need to do. Another thing to consider is it's really important to have scripts for these people. Usually you have a private pay script and you have an insurance script. You could have a private pay, straight private pay, a private pay out of network, and then your insurance script. So private pay script, hi, this is, whatever your name of your practice is. Yes, we are not an insurance provider. However, we're happy to provide you with a super bill. This is our fees. These are the benefits of going private pay, blah, 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 blah. Same thing sort of with, out of network. We're happy to bill your insurance out of network, or again, provide you a super bill, because unfortunately we're not a part of that insurance panel for whatever reason. And then, private pay, you ask all the questions you need, related to insurance. Those calls are really important because that's where you really learn your conversion rates for the calls versus people booked, and then people who actually show up for the intake. So you want to make sure on those calls, you're really asking appropriate questions, that you're not necessarily booking too far out in advance, because a lot of people will start calling around, that you really are, gathering all the information that you need and placing the person with the appropriate resources and services. So, a lot of the times people will call, they don't really know what they're looking for, right? They're looking for something broad. They just happen upon your website or your card and they call you, and, you have to make sure you're a right fit during those calls, and then have some references or resources for whoever it is that may not be a good fit for you. So I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, TherapyNotes. If you're looking for an electronic health record, like I said, I highly recommend that you have one. This is where we do our intake process. Everything gets put into TherapyNotes. All the paperwork gets sent to them. A reminder gets sent to them. So sort of that middle from the phone call to the first appointment is really taken care of through our electronic health records. So I highly recommend you take a look at TherapyNotes, because it will make your intake process a lot easier. So going back to your intake process, yes, I want you to formalize it. I want you to share it with your team members. I want you to think about hiring somebody for that, especially if you're busy. People nowadays just go on and they call the next person. They call the next person until somebody answers. And so you want to make sure that you're answering as many live calls as you can. So if you have a practice even of 20 hours a week during normal business hours, that might be really hard for you to do. If you have off hours, like maybe you work 3 to 9, 4 days a week, something like that, that might be different, because you can field all your calls 9 to 12 or 9 to 2, and then you can just put something on your voicemail that says, our business hours are 9 to 2 for answering calls. Any calls placed after 2 p.m., we will call you back first thing in the morning. That kind of gives somebody the information that, yes, you will call them back. So if they really want to see you, they'll wait. And so make that process formal. Would love to see your process if anybody wants to share it in our group so we can help and support each other. I am here helping you build your smart practice. See you soon, everybody. Bye.